Welcome back to another episode of FPL Hive, and today we are joined by a very special guest, the first guest on this channel, and it is a man who you would know from the football scene, from the Fortnite scene. If you watched his Insta story the other day, he met Drake, so you might know him from that now. Listen, it is Leven2k. How are you doing?
I'm good, brother. It's good to be here talking with you about football and FPL. I didn't think I'd see the day where me and Bays are doing a vid again. That's crazy.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle. But listen, let's get straight into Levin's team. Okay, so Levin, you've gone with Sanchez, Richards, Porro, and Murillo as your back line. Explain your thinking.
Well, yeah, I think it's important to give the viewers some context here as to my FPL experience. I'm not a very experienced FPL player. In fact, I'd go as far as saying I am a novice when it comes to FPL. I think I've tried to play it on like 3 different occasions, and I've probably stopped playing after like 3 weeks every single time. I have played like FPL draft with you, Ty, Harj, and some of our other friends. So like I have some idea of like who are good players in FPL and who are not. And so basically when I was like, this year I'm going to play. I'm going to commit to playing FPL this year. I'm going to really go for it. And so I did a bunch of research. Obviously, you know, they added DEFCON points this year. And so when I went for Murillo and Richards, a lot of that was to do with, you know, people saying that they would be good players for DEFCON. You know, I think I showed you my team at one point and you were like, oh, okay, yeah, you know, that looks decent. You got Murillo, Richards in there. Porro was someone who, again, I've used him when I've done FPL draft. Like I've had him, I think, a couple years now when I've done that and played against you guys. And he's always just gotten a bunch of points for me, again, attacking fullback. So it makes sense there. And then with Sanchez in goal, for decent price for a keeper, playing on a team who are really strong this year, good chance they'll keep some clean sheets. So again, I don't think there's anything too crazy here, but it's a defense I'm happy with. I'm not over the moon with it because I think so far Murillo hasn't really scored too many points for me, DEFCON wise. Forrest obviously been struggling a bit, but you know, I'm fine with my defense right now.
I think going into this game week 3, what's interesting for me is that you have Anderson on the bench. I know he has Chelsea, which is a difficult fixture, but he normally ranks quite highly for DEFCON as well, isn't it? And Chris Richards has Aston Villa. Don't get me wrong, Aston Villa haven't been the best going forward, but is there not slight concern? Palace, they obviously have a Conference League game tomorrow. They're only 1-0 up. Potentially that Thursday, Sunday football with fatigue, that Palace might not be as strong on Sunday.
Yeah, for me, it was more so just about like Chelsea for me right now are just a team who are just guaranteed just gonna get goals. Like, you know, the football they've been playing has been, you know, again, DEFCON points, all things considered, right? Like the difference that you get there in points is what, like 2 or 4, whatever. I just think Palace are more likely to keep a clean sheet. That's really just it. But we'll see. I do also have the fact that someone in my midfield might not play. So I was sort of thinking about whoever that first sub is just like who's going to come on. So there's a good chance both of them end up getting points from me anyway.
You know what? Let's get into your midfield because I think that's where it gets really spicy for FPL this week. So, Levin, your midfield. Anderson, Salah, Fernandez, Palmer, and Ilimin Njai. Probably butchered that pronunciation, but listen, it is what it is. Yeah, everyone's seen that video, innit? Everyone knows how to pronounce it, but I still can't pronounce it. But listen, Levin, explain your thinking behind this midfield because I've got a lot of the same players, but I just really want to hear your thoughts on why you've gone.
Yeah. Well, look, I think ultimately, you know, when you're playing this game, you're trying to, like, my thought process, again, I'm speaking to someone who's not very experienced, but my thought process is very much just like, how many players can I fit in here who are gonna, especially in midfield where, you know, there's so much value in midfielders who can score goals and get goals, like how many can I stack in who I'm sure can do that? And so I was like, can I get 3 in there, you know, who are like, I know are gonna have that potential to get goals and contribute at a high level. Ndai and Anderson were both players who, Anderson, I'm just a big fan of him as a player in general, just like outside of FPL. I think he's a really top player, someone who I thought maybe United or someone should look at this season. And then Ndai sort of just came in as just like I was trying to find someone who just with the budget I had left. But when it comes to Palmer, Salah, and Fernandez, Salah, just I don't play FPL, but I know you just need to have Salah in your team. Like if you're not playing with Salah, you're just doing something wrong. Bruno is someone who I've used when I played FPL draft a lot, and he's always contributed quite highly. I was concerned about his role in United this season, obviously like playing a bit deeper. But, you know, I was sort of going off a lot of the coach's comments because Amarim talked a lot about wanting Bruno to still get involved higher up the pitch. He did still get involved higher up the pitch, even at times last season when he was playing deeper. Obviously on penalties, someone who also can get DEFCON points as well because he's just erratic, he's just everywhere. So I thought Bruno, cool. Palmer, I'm not going to lie. If I'm being completely honest, Palmer for me was purely peer pressure. It was a pure peer pressure pick because, like, I don't know what it is. You know, like sometimes you just have players who you're like, I'm not really sure. Like something don't feel right there. Like for me, Palmer's not so, like I wasn't that excited to put Palmer in my team. And so when he blanked game week 1, I was like, and then he gets injured game week 2, and I'm like, oh, why did I do this? But again, just so many people speak so highly of Palmer as like an asset in FPL. And to be fair, even with the stuff about him not getting open play goals towards the back end of last season, I watched a couple of Chelsea's games in preseason, and he was a lot better. Like it looks more like, you know, the Palmer who played under Poch than the Palmer we saw a lot of last season. So I thought, you know, with Chelsea being as good as I think they're going to be this season, you know, it's a good shout to have him in there as well.
I'm still a bit, I'll be honest, on Palmer. I question his role in that Chelsea side, innit? So, for example, in the opening game in the Premier League, he was almost like the left hand in possession, and then Enzo operates in that right hand row, innit?
Yeah.
I think Palmer's better off that right or that inside right hand channel compared to like that left hand channel, innit? If that makes sense.
Agreed, yeah.
And ever since like, I think West Ham was that first game where I was like, okay, Enzo Maresca might play Palmer on the right now. Is this going to be like a bit what we saw in, for example, the Club World Cup where he had that similar sort of role? Obviously, the injury was unfortunate that we didn't get to see it, but only time will tell. But obviously, we'll talk about Palmer's injury a bit more detailed further down the line. I want to talk about Salah. I know you said Salah's the king of FPL, and I always say the same thing. How do you think he's set up right now in that Liverpool side, besides from FPL? Because you're obviously phenomenal football knowledge.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked me this because I actually have missed both of Liverpool's games this season. First game, I was on the way to the hospital. I was on my way to A&E. I'm fine now. I'm fine. And the second game, the one they just played against Newcastle, I was away in Copenhagen watching Drake, so I missed the match. Now,
we just had to get that in.
You know, yeah, just had to point that out. I will say, I've seen a lot of people talk about like Salah maybe being a bit more quiet so far this season. Again, I've not watched, so I can't comment. But I think the great thing about Salah is, you know, like he's going to get involved. You know, like he could stink it up for a good 80 minutes, but he's not going to get subbed off. And there's still a good chance in those last 10 minutes he gets you a goal, right? And so I think he's just the type of player who like just I'm just happy owning him because it's Mo Salah. There's not much to it other than the fact like he might not be set up as well. I remember there was the year under Klopp where like they had him more out as like a touchline winger that season, and Pep Lijnders, and everyone was blaming Pep Lijnders, going, why is Salah playing like this? But it's like even in a season like that, you still just know he's gonna get you GA, and you can't be that certain with a lot of other players in the Premier League where you have that certainty feeling with Salah.
Because my thing is, when I watch Liverpool, I feel like you see Ekatike up top.
Right.
I feel like he favours the like inside left-hand channel a bit more, innit?
You have a lot of players.
I feel like Wirtz is the exact same thing. So I feel like Liverpool have a lot going down the left-hand side. I don't think the right-hand side, like dynamics for Liverpool, have like fully clicked. Obviously, Frimpong was injured for the second game, so Bossala had to play there. That's what I'm like. I just want to see Salah's role at Liverpool a bit more right now and how they click on that side. Because otherwise, I feel like it could be potentially be better up doubling up with Gakpo and Ekatike rather than having Salah in your team.
I've thought about other Liverpool players that I would like to own, and I definitely thought a lot about Ekitike. I don't know if we'll maybe talk about people who I thought about bringing in more, but
Mm.
I think Liverpool will be an interesting team to watch, right? Because with everyone, it's like in my mentality of like I'm gonna play FPL this season, and another big thing I've been thinking is like I want to play like the slow and long game, like let's figure out what teams are what and who's good, who's gonna be an impactful in FPL, and like go off of that rather than like reacting too quickly to the first two games.
And I feel like, one thing I said, I think on your team when you sent it initially in game week 1 was that I like your team structure. So, for example, like you have Salah, you have Bruno, you can navigate towards other players a lot easier, if that makes sense, innit? So this is like something I spoke about in the wildcard draft yesterday. If people haven't seen it, go watch it. Is that I like teams with 2 premium players, so Salah and Palmer in this case, or Salah and Haaland. So, say for example, if Saka, there's going to be a point when he's back and firing for Arsenal. How do you navigate towards Saka if you don't have the likes of Palmer and Salah? It's going to cost more transfers to get there, if that makes sense, innit? Because your money naturally is going to be spread around more players. So I feel like now that you have Palmer, if Saka was fully fit, it's an easy way to navigate. That's why I'm always so heavy on the 2 premium structure. And that's something I think you done well with your team from like day one.
Yeah, it's given me that because as much as I've said I'm not going to jump the gun and react too quickly, I've had thoughts about what I can do. And like the great thing is like I feel like I have options. Like I don't feel stuck with my team. I've been consuming like a bunch of content about FPL, and I've seen people feeling uncomfortable. People like, I got a wild card, I got to do this, I got to do it. And I'm like, if I just roll my transfer to next week, I have 3 transfers, and like I could change up a lot of my team in a way that would put me in a better spot or a spot I'm happier about. So I feel really good about my midfield so far. I think it gives me a lot of wiggle room.
And plus, we got an international break coming up. You never know with injuries. Of
Never
course,
know.
on Monday, the transfer window closes. So that's obviously a benefit if you wait until after, like making transfers towards game week 4, because you will have a full picture of how sides look. Because one of the main reasons that I think a lot of people haven't brought in Ekitike is Alexander Isak. If he goes Liverpool, then you're not really going to bringing in Ekitike. But listen, let's move on to your forwards, because I think that's where there might be some dilemmas now. So let's get into your forwards, Leven. You've gone with João Pedro and you've gone with Watkins. But first of all, explain those 2 picks before we talk about captaincy for this week.
So I picked João Pedro just because I'm a big fan of João Pedro. I think he's a great footballer. Someone who, since he was at Watford, I always rated him really highly. Another example of a player who I've used in like the FPL fantasy draft that we do. I think I've had him 2 of the seasons we've done it, and he's just bagged so many points. I think I had him last season when he was at Brighton, and he was amazing for me.
And you didn't give him to me.
Yeah, I did. You wanted it. I remember. Yeah, you wanted to try. You wanted to do a trade, and I was not having it because he was really doing the job for me. And so when he went to Chelsea, I was like, great move for him. Really happy for him. Saw him some of the games he played where he just looked amazing coming straight in the Club World Cup, and I was like, I'm gonna own this guy. Like I have to have this guy in my team. So João Pedro, he was just gonna be someone I always had in my team. Now, in my initial draft that I didn't have Watkins. I didn't have Watkins. I can't remember who I had, but I didn't have Watkins, and I was like, again, Watkins almost was similar to Palmer to me, where he was a player who everyone was like, oh yeah, it's FPL, you got to have Watkins, and I was just like, I don't know,
I think that was me in it who said it.
And I said it in my team, and you were like, bro, you got to have Watkins, and I was like, hey, I got to listen to the FPL hype. Like I can't go against the FPL hype. So I put Watkins in, and he stunk it up. And so now I'm like, every time I look at FPL and he's just not doing anything for me, I'm like, Baines, man. Oh, this Baines guy. So
okay, so let me explain my reasoning here.
Yeah,
I think Watkins is doing bad more to do with the structure around him right now with Unai Emery and stuff, innit? Because even a lot of Aston Villa fans are complaining that the lineup is not attacking enough. So the front 3 or the 3 behind Ollie Watkins the first 2 games has been Morgan Rogers, Tielemans, and John McGinn. Like no real recognised winger, because Unai Emery normally has that one winger that he has. He hasn't really gone with that. Marlon, for example, is a player that he had a brilliant record in pre-season. We haven't really seen him from the start. So a lot of Aston Villa fans are not really happy with that. Obviously, they got the new guy from Nice as well. That's where I think more the criticism has to be, rather than Ollie Watkins is a bad player. I feel like if Unai Emery makes one or two changes into that three behind Ollie Watkins becomes a great asset again.
Look, I don't disagree with you. I think clearly there's something that they have to figure out there at Villa. I think another reason why I also just wasn't as big on Ollie Watkins, and it isn't primarily even like an Ollie Watkins problem, is like another thing I was thinking about a lot when I was, making my FPL team was like thinking about teams, and like what teams do I want to be invested in rather than just the individual players. And I do worry for Villa this season with European football, with just how some of the other teams around the league have strengthened. So I think I was always just going to be a shaky one. I went with it at the end of the day, and so I have to own that. I can't sit here and blame Bainesy. But again, with just, in terms of the cost of Ollie Watkins, like being able to move away from him isn't the hardest thing in the world to do. So again, I'm not too stressed about it. I'm not too worried about it. I think this Crystal Palace game will be a very interesting game because again, it's like if they don't get the lineup behind them right for third game in a row, I think that would say a lot, right, about how Emery's thinking, and maybe you should start to worry a bit more than going into international break. But yeah, that's my front two.
You see the problem with that is even if he goes with the the same front or three behind Ollie Watkins, the fixtures after that are Everton, Sunderland, Fulham, and Burnley.
So you just on paper, you're bang. Yeah.
Like there's goals there.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
Are there any other forwards that you're looking at?
Like people who I'd want to bring in?
Yeah.
Also, do you want to talk about, because I've had some ideas for transfers. So do you want to get into so the main thing I was thinking of doing, so there's two teams that are lacking in my draft, which, if I was to redraft, I would invest more in. And one of them might be surprising to people after last weekend's results. First one is Spurs. I'm a big fan of Thomas Frank. I just think they're going to be a much better team this season. I know a lot of the underlying numbers shows that they've been one of the better teams, which has been clearly evident for everyone to see. And so I've been considering bringing in like a Kudus or Brennan Johnson. But again, I'm still worried about the transfer window because I know they're looking at bringing in like a Savino or someone else. And then I've also just thought having City in. Some more City. Obviously, there's always going to be the problem with like just not knowing who Pep is going to play, which already this season has felt a bit like bloody hell, who's actually going to play. But I'm just of the personal belief that City will be way up there at the top of the table this season. Obviously, losing to Spurs doesn't feel great, but I just think that they have everything they need to go through and run it back and be a good team. So what I was thinking of doing was I had it written down here. I was going to do minus Bruno, minus Watkins, minus Palmer. Bruno, again, just the uncertainty around one, United, because we've stunk. And two, just him playing a bit deeper. Watkins and Palmer, for the reasons I explained, just personally, just not even too big on those two. And obviously, it's not been the best of starts. And so I was going to take out those three and then bring in Haaland, Semenyo, and Kudus. Now, I'd obviously have to tank the minus 4 points, but I can afford that. And then it would mean that I have Haaland. I'd feel good about owning Kudus. I know Kudus maybe isn't the biggest goal threat, but I feel good about having him in my team because I think Spurs are going to be a big threat. And I think even if they bring someone in, Kudus is still probably going to be starting most games and playing quite a bit of minutes. And then Semenyo, I mean, he's just had such a hot start, right? He's had such a hot start. Bournemouth might not necessarily be the best team in the league, but he's going to be someone who's going to have high output, right? So like I thought about that. Fourth on shots, like he's gonna be there. And I really did think about just doing it and taking the minus 4 points. But again, I'm not in a rush. Like I could just do that next week and not take the minus 4 points. And I have somewhat decent fixtures. I don't think Palmer's going to play this weekend, so I'm kind of probably going to have to hold that. But it's not the worst spot in the world to be in. I also thought about like if Palmer's injury is more serious, do I maybe just get out of that now? But again, I don't think we really heard anything, unless there's been anything today, like as of the morning we're recording this. I think there's a good chance he's, not out for too long. So maybe again, I don't need to overreact there. But I did think about just options I can have. I thought about bringing in an TK maybe for Watkins, but obviously with Liverpool playing Arsenal, it just doesn't really make much sense to do that this week. So like, there's things I'm thinking about doing. Like, there's ways in which I definitely feel like I could change my team around. But again, I'm just, as a new FPL player, I'm like trying to balance the understanding of like what fixtures make the most sense versus, you know, long-term ownership versus, you know, like it's so mad to me. You know, I was watching, you know, FPL Hive and you guys were talking about like wild cards and free hits, and I was like, bloody hell, man, this is overwhelming. Like, I picked my team and I'm just trying to figure out who I want in my team, and now you're telling me about wild cards and free hits and all that. So I'm like still trying to take it all in and figure out what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying not to do too much before I need to.
You know what it is? I think right now there's a lot of like panic in the FPL community because, for example, like let's look at the big FPL content creators or like the real like players that normally finish quite high up in the ranks. For example, like Ben Krellin, people know on Twitter, like FPL Harry, FPL Raptor. They're really, really struggling right now towards the start of the season. Some of them are in like the 7 millions in the ranking, but obviously that ranking can change so quickly, especially at the start of the season. So I think
Gameweek
that's
too.
where that's what I'm trying to say. That's where the panic sets in, where people are saying free hit, wild card. But I think, listen, a lot of like, for example, your team. I think you're on 99 points in total over the first 2 weeks, which is listen. I don't think it's horrible, but obviously it's not phenomenal either. It's just kind of in the middle. I don't think there's real need to panic because if you look at that team structure, I would say that's a good team personally. The only thing I'm going to question you on is Jab Hedger captaincy for this week. Like, explain that.
I thought a lot about my captaincy, and I'm still not set on it. I might not go with it. There are things that still just I've sat here and talked about not changing anything, and who knows? By the time game week comes, I might change everything. At the moment, I have him just as my captain because it's just pure copium. I'm just a believer. I just think he'll have a good game against Fulham. I thought about maybe giving it to Bruno. I ended up giving him vice captaincy. Right now, my team, I'm just like, I don't know what to really do with captaincy, vice captaincy in my team. So I just slapped on João Pedro for now, and we'll see how it goes.
You know, there's a rule in the FPL community. You never back the early kickoff. Chelsea Fulham is that 12:30 game on Saturday. I don't know if I want to go there. I don't know if you should go there. I personally, I think Bruno's a safer bet.
Like, I see that, but I also watch United playing, so I don't see it.
Yeah, but this is what I said on Bruno in my earlier videos yesterday is, you see your Bruno, he missed a penalty against Fulham here, but he also got 2 DEFCON points. On another day, listen, Bruno Fernandes is a phenomenal penalty taker. He scores that penalty, he picks up those 2 DEFCON points, he's probably on between 1 to 3 bonus points. He could have easily come out with 10 to 13 points in that game.
Absolutely.
Then let's say, narrative around Bruno Fernandes in the FPL community is completely different to how it is now, where people are a bit unsure on him.
Absolutely. The problem is that was last week, and this is this week. And so if I again, so when it comes to Bruno, right? Like, from watching United this season, obviously he got the penalty. Like, if we get a penalty, he's going to be the one on it, realistically speaking. So we have that security. But outside of the chance of getting a penalty, how do you feel about Bruno's impact and ability to contribute so far from just what you've seen so far?
Don't get me wrong. So far, like, it hasn't been good enough, innit? But you're expecting against Burnley for him to slightly push up, innit? I also don't think Almiron's...
I'm just trying to...
I'm hoping, innit? But I also don't think, like, Almiron's setup hasn't really helped him. For example, was it against Fulham? There was a point where Mason Mount dropped deeper playing next to Bruno Fernandes. Then Bruno Fernandes is pretty much going to be the one receiving the ball at the back line, which, listen, is horrible from an FPL point of view, innit? So that's where I'm like, I don't know, innit? Because I think we're both in the same camp that we don't rate Amorim. We don't know and understand his team set up to the best of, like, it just don't make sense. Like,
I just think when you're looking at Man United and you're looking at the Burnley fixture, the players who you're like, okay, they're going to get me something here are Cunha and Mbeumo, right? Like, they're the ones who have looked the most threatening and most likely to get any sort of GA. Maybe even on like a defensive, like a Dorgu or something, just because, again, he's always just so high up the pitch. Like, from what I've like, Bruno's just not been in threatening positions to where I feel like he's going to get some GA here. Which is why I think logically, yes, Bruno, I think makes the most sense as captain. And so I might end up just slapping it on him because I'm of like just pure, just unsure, like who's going to do what. But just from watching United, I'm just not like it also just doesn't make sense to me how that happens, you know?
Well, I feel like Leven is a eye test manager kind of thing, isn't it? I'm heavy
I
on
think I
like
am.
past reputation and data. That's why I've had like, for example, like Cole Palmer towards the back end of last season. Even though like he was struggling, I held him for quite a long time in it just because I know what he can do. I feel like Bruno's a similar one where if I had him this week, I would probably just captain him just because I know the capability of Bruno from an FPL point of view.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it makes sense. I definitely think like I want to be more inclined to follow the data and the past history trends, but my own personal bias, I think, will definitely shine through at times, and it will cost me. I think it cost me a bit last week. I think I can't remember what I did in my night last week, but there was someone who I didn't put in that like a lot of people are like, yeah, it makes sense to put these guys. Oh, sorry, it was to do with it was to do with Burnley versus Sunderland, and I was like, nah, man, Sunderland will have it, man. And then I didn't do it, right, and it cost me. So it's like, yeah, we'll see, man. It's a long season. I'm just enjoying playing the game. I've never enjoyed FPL this much, you know. So I'm just trying to see how it goes, man.
I'll be honest, right now I'm enjoying it as well, but that's because I have 2 green arrows from 2 in it. Like decent scores. I'll be honest, I think I'm gonna have a stinker this week, and if I have a stinker this week, hey, next week is gonna be stress on the FPL videos. That's when I'm gonna be making transfers, and that's when, listen, that's when the real season starts. When you see a red arrow, man, that's where. Honestly, it hurts my heart when I see a red arrow. You guys don't know me.
It's funny because my first week was so bad, so I still had green arrows this week, so I was happy. You know, I couldn't. You know, it is what it is.
There's no way you will get worse, kind of thing.
It couldn't get worse. So I was like, yeah, green arrows, everything's good, bro.
Yeah, that's where like having a bad start is not horrible because they're even down at 8 million. Realistically, like you can only go up. Well, you can go down, but the chances that you go down are like, come on, man. Like if you're going down at that point, you're a shambles. But listen, this is Leven's team. Interesting way that he thinks and plays FPL. A bit different to how maybe me, Ty play FPL. So that's great insight. But listen, before we end the video, make sure you guys like the video. Comment your thoughts on Leven's team. Subscribe to the channel. And Leven, anything you want to say?
Hey, man. Hopefully I'm back here in a couple of weeks and I'm, you know, way up there in the let's see my goal. What's my goal? I should have a goal for my first proper season of FPL. What's a realistic goal for me, do you think?
I think you can get top 100k.
Top 100k?
Yeah.
What?
If you stay engaged from now until the end of the season and you watch every single video on FPL Hive, I think you can get top 100k.
All right, bro. Let's see if I can get top 100k in FPL.
I think
I can do that. All right, that's my goal then. That's my goal. Listen, that's the road to top 100k. Okay.
Listen, make sure you guys subscribe to see if an FPL casual like Leven can get top 100k. Listen, we'll be back soon.